Beautiful. But what on earth possessed you to want to walk 1,200 miles?
Honestly, I've wanted to do it for as long as I can remember. I don't know when it will have started, but I got this idea of... I remember thinking, could you do that? And then when you figure out people do that, you're like, wow, I want to see, you know, if I could do it. And then because I've tied... This is my third album, and I tied both the first and second to a specific journey or experience. So the idea was that this would inform the third album, and then because of the lockdowns, and we were supposed to walk in 2020, but then obviously couldn't, and then I'd finished an album, so I was like, but we'd tied it. By that point, we'd roped in producers, directors, investors on the project, and they were like, you need to do the walk. So instead what we did was visited musicians as we went, which was incredible. And as the country opened up, that was a big part of it. It's really special.
And we saw some of the hazards there, from midges and the weather. I mean, it's tough.
It is tough.
It's really interesting that you should say that today, of all days, because we've been covering a news story today that GPs from now on in England are able to prescribe walking and cycling to their patients, and this sort of social prescribing thing. It sounds like that's something that you think would be valuable. I
think so. I'm no GP. I think, like, and I've always found that is just, again, if it kind of physically slows you down, that kind of plays into the way you think things through and put your thoughts together.
Did it help you? Because I know you've been very open in the past about some of mental health issues that you faced yourself. Did it?
I think yes, without a doubt, and it helped talking to Adam and Christy and hearing them back as well. But also, there's always this, what I chose to pursue is, on the one hand, this thing I love, which is music, and on the other hand, I managed to make it the most intense thing imaginable by my own doing. You know, it's like, partly just by saying, yes, why not? I'll try that, I'll try that. And then that, it was so separate from it, that it made me rethink the way you approach what it is you do. And I think, for some of us, that was lockdown anyway, was that kind of like, what am I doing? Why do I do it this way? You know, could it change in any way?
If stopping for that amount of time, well, you didn't stop, actually, you walked a lot, but taking that break away from music and your normal day-to-day life, how did that shift your perspective on life, what you do, the future?
I think, well, more than anything, it made me relax about it. I had managed to kind of make it this very overwhelming thing, and I guess in a kind of self-preservation way, I managed to convince myself that music was separate to life, if that makes sense. It would be like, I'll put life on hold and I'll go on tour for 6 months or whatever, and that's, for me, that's not true. It is part of what I do, and that was quite, that's a nice thing to figure out.
Yeah, and there was an example, actually, I read about, maybe you can tell us more about it, but for example, if you were getting on a plane and you knew where in 2 weeks' time, you would spend a lot of time just planning worrying about every single detail of that trip.
I think, but that was, I just started to just control things that didn't need controlling.